My name is Desira Davids. We are streaming live from Hillside High in Port Elizabeth. Going North, the show that celebrates our very own community champions from the northern areas. Today we are going to feature Professor Veonna Goliath from the Nelson Mandela University. Girl who grew up here in Salt Lake. She matriculated from Bettelsdorp High and she's currently a professor in the Social Development Department at Nelson Mandela University. Please welcome Professor Veonna Goliath.
Clap your hands and shake your hips. Shake your hand and stamp your feet. Be afraid, yeah, very afraid. Making rooms for the champions. We don't take second best. Crush adversaries to the ground. You better make room for the champion.
Thank you guys. Can we have a seat, Prof? Good day, Doc. How are you today?
Very well, Desira. It's lovely to be here. Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you.
It's good to have you here. This show is about celebrating our own community champions from the northern areas who have achieved despite of their circumstances. Because what we deal with nowadays in society, and especially in the northern areas, is the fact that our youth do not have, positive role models visible, I might say, in the community. But today we are featuring you. We are really interested in, your journey, how you made it and what your achievements are in life. So my first question to you, Prof, would be, tell us a bit about, Veonna Goliath. Who is Veonna Goliath? Not the professor, not the lecturer, not the academic. We want to know who is Veonna Goliath, the girl who grew up in Salt Lake. What was it like growing up? How was your childhood like?
Okay. Desira, so Veonna is a very simple girl from an amazing community called Salt Lake. Yeah. Daughter of now the late Ronnie and Thelma Bosman. So second born of 4 children. And grew up in the dusty roads of Salt Lake. And had a stunning community, aunties and uncles that helped to raise me. Had Auntie Jackie when my mom died. I was just 19 when my mom died. So second year student at the time. But then I had the Auntie Sophies and the Auntie Maggies on either side of me. And then my mom's sister, Auntie Jackie, that is just one road below us. I'm in Arley Street. I grew up in Arley Street. And so Auntie Jackie, that was in Harrington Street, was that anchor for us. Yeah. And then, like I said, there's the second born, so my sister is older, 2 years older, and then I have a sister that's 4 years younger. And then I have a brother that was a lot lamiki. And when my mom died, he was 9 and I was 19. And I was a second year student and I became an instant mom to a 9-year-old. Okay.
How was that experience?
I was a very incompetent mother. So, to this day he would tell me that I really didn't know how to be a mother. But how are you supposed to know as a 19-year-old?
Exactly,
And he was the only son in the house, so we were all 3 girls, and then this boy that we didn't know what to do with. But an incredibly shaping experience, really taught me. So it was a wonderful contraceptive to not have children before the time. But specifically learning, how to do things on the run, because I didn't have any training in how to be a parent. And then I had to be at the soccer field every Saturday because he played soccer.
Okay.
And then one of my best experiences was trying to score a goal on his behalf. Didn't know that I'm supposed to be on this side, but got so into the game that he was so close to the poles, and then this ball wasn't going the direction it was supposed to go, and then I went onto the field and scored a goal.
Very interesting. I never, saw he was that kind of a person. Was it initially your dream to become a social worker, or where did it start?
No, it started actually in the mortuary of Livingston Hospital.
In the mortuary?
Yeah, because Bethel Survivor School I went to, they still did these career outings for grade 11 learners. Standard, what was it at the time?
9.
Standard 9 at the time. So our teacher took us to, she asked who's interested in nursing. So these, you know, there were only 4 professions that they groomed us to go into. So it was teaching, nursing, the police, and then social work was one of them. And I wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
And so we went to, so the ones that were into nursing, we went to Livingston Hospital. And then those years, the mortuary was in the lower ground, the basement also. So they took us into the mortuary. And then they had just wrapped up a little baby that had passed on.
Sure.
And I couldn't stand that sight. And that's why I changed my career field.
Just
on the
then.
spot. On the spot.
So you think in social work you're not going to deal with such?
You know, it was, I think it was in the same category of helping, the helping professions. So if I wasn't going to have to attend to, you know, people that wasn't with us in the present anymore, then the obvious one was for people that's alive and breathing. So wanted to do social work, and my accounting teacher, Mrs. Hiles, was incredibly upset that I wanted to do social work.
Of course, she wanted you to become an accountant.
She wanted me to go into accounting,
Were you good at accounting in school?
I was. I've gotten, I mean, from grade 11, every exam was 4 marks, and even my matric paper was 4 marks.
Have you ever considered it?
No, not at all. No.
Not after the day in the mortuary.
No, so she marched me to the principal's office, who was Mr. Raymond Uren at the time, and said, can you talk sense into this child's head with those marks in accounting and doing maths higher grade? And Mr. Uren gave her one look and said, let Veonna be. Because since I started high school, I was amongst the top 5 in the grade. So every year, so the only girl every year in the top 5, and he said, she will know what she wants to do. And so it was hands off.
When you look at the youth, and in fact, you know, grade 10, 11 learners nowadays, they're not, you know, their minds are not that made up in terms of what they want to become. For instance, you would think in grade 10 perhaps, for example, you want to become an accountant. Grade 11, you change your mind again, you say, no, I want to do social work. And grade 12 is a total different story. But when I listened to you, it seemed that you got your mind made up like, you know, early in your high school years, and you didn't look back. How was that possible?
Desira, I think it was really just how we grew up.
Okay.
You know, in those years, we had lots of, most of the mothers in our communities weren't working. I mean, these mothers were homemakers, and even single parents, you know, were relying on grants and others to help. But I think it was very firm, steady, available female figures that demonstrated that community nursing, the community caring. And I think that's really where my interest started. It's looking at these aunties and how they're taking care of the neighbors' children and the ones across the road, and seeing the difference it made, because we had such stability in a very unstable environment. Because then we had the mafias and the mongrels, ne? Toe die mense savel geslaan, julle. So and then we had amazing teachers. I mean, I'm recalling Mrs. Neiser from primary school, Mr. Adams, who was my principal at the time, and they really made a lot of effort to tell us about the potential that we have. As a child, if you went to those schools and you didn't believe you could become something, it wasn't from a lack of motivation on the teacher's side. They really made an effort to remind you, you're here for a reason, there's a bigger purpose. And so constantly grooming your mind to think bigger, you know, than just the community.
Thank you for that, Prof. We are going to go for a very, very, very small break, and then we'll be back. Don't go away.
Okay.
Discover a place where smiling playmates ride rolling bits of blue and carve rainbows through fresh salt air. Nelson Mandela Bay. Discover freedom.
Welcome back to Going North, the show that celebrates our very own community champions from the northern areas. Today we're talking to Professor Veonna Goliath from the Social Work Department at Nelson Mandela University, Doc. And I'm going to keep on calling you Doc, I'm sorry, but it's just a force of habit. Before we went to break, you spoke about the strong women in your life that played a pivotal role in you achieving what you achieved today. That would be one of my questions, but coming to that, there are certain challenges in every person's life that they face along the way, and some hurdles that you need to get over in achieving, your goals. Can you recall, maybe one or two certain challenges that you faced, and how have you overcome them? Like, apart from the women that played such an important role, some teachers that you mentioned, at the top of your head, is there maybe someone else that you can recall that might have played a very, very important role in influencing you and encouraging you, despite of your challenges, to achieve what you've achieved today?
Yeah. Desira, my dad, bless his soul, was an alcoholic. Yeah. And he wasn't a... Yeah, I think the drinking problem became worse when I was in grade 6. So that by the time I got to grade 7, which is standard 5, he had lost his job. And no one was working, not my mom, not my dad. And we essentially relied on handouts from the community. This Auntie Jackie I spoke about. The Christmas clothing was a big thing in the communities, right?
Of course, yeah.
So on a Monday, we would have the fish from the neighbor next door. On a Thursday, somebody would bring mealies and beans from somewhere. So it literally was a community effort to raise us. And my dad, for all of the problems that he had with alcoholism, was an amazing, emotionally present father. So when I studied, because we grew up in a one-bedroom house with 2 adults that were both chain smokers. Wow. That's why I'm so aversive to smoking. With 4 children in 1 bedroom. And then, like I said, despite his drinking and alcoholism, actually, not just drinking, he would, at night time, when I sit in the kitchen to work and to study, he would say, "Nou, lekker getrek," but he would say, "I'm not going to bed until you finish studying." And then he would pass out in the lounge. He would be fast asleep. But that physical presence to know, and these houses were so small, right? I could hear my brothers breathing from the bedroom if I'm sitting in the kitchen. But having the sight of my father lying there, physically being available, even though fast asleep, but to commit himself to be that present. Despite the drinking, and an incredibly nurturing human being, so just the most loving, nurturing human being. And as I got older, got to understand the reason for that drinking. And as you know, now my field of expertise is in the field of addictions. Because I had my live training at home, you see, my first experiment. And this is really how, for me, how something that could have really devastated my life,
yes, of course,
became the source of my biggest inspiration. I was curious about alcoholism. I was very curious about drugs and why people do that. And this is why that became the area in which I invested most of my academic life, where my PhD was done in, etc. And it was part of this journey. Most of the jobs I've held have been in the area of addictions. So it's what could have been a huge storm in my life has really become the wave in which I've been surfing.
So would you say, even like you said now, your interest in alcoholism and an abuse of substances, was it also about, maybe not, feeling helpless those days to be able to help your father, but at the end of the day, maybe going into it and venturing into it to maybe be able to help somebody else then at one point in time in your life? Was it about that maybe?
Yeah, no, it's definitely how it started, and I think that's where the professional training helps so much, because if I didn't get that training and that very close supervision whilst training, I would obviously go into families like that, trying to attend to it as if it was my own family. So it was incredibly important, even the way we train today, that we train social workers today, that you learn that this is not your family that you're working with, it's somebody else's family. And obviously then I had to go to therapy for myself to deal with my own demons and grow through it. And for me, therapy today, still as a psychologist and a social worker, isn't something that weak people do or people with problems do. It's your investment in yourself to become a better version of yourself. So it's that gift that you give yourself, you know, to grow bigger and better in order to be of service to the community and to yourself.
Yeah, of course. Prof, I've listened to, you know, previous interviewers speak about, you know, how perhaps maybe their faith or their principles or their values or certain things that their parents taught them, you know, brought them, you know, out of, you know, challenging situations in their lives, and like I said earlier on, made them achieve in spite of all the other obstacles. Would you say, is that true for you also? How did you overcome your challenges? Was it also your faith? What does it ring true for you? That's what I wanna ask actually.
Yeah, no, without any doubt, Zara, I would never be where I am if I didn't believe that God created me and that He was He continues to journey with me and to guide me. So my faith most definitely, and even if I look at most of the young people I've worked with, if they're able to believe in a creator and really not just believing in God, but to have a place where you can go and worship, a place where you are with like-minded individuals, you know, people that really are there, pray with you, you exchange with the youth. I'm seeing some of our youth members here as well, which is wonderful. Because it's where you start to make sense of life, isn't it? I mean, you read about people that have had such hardship in biblical times, and you hear and see how they've overcome because of their faith. So those are real examples. And today, what you're doing is such an incredible project, because we can't physically see the Moseses and the Daniels of those times, but we can hold on to hope that there are people that have sort of like followed examples, and those seeds are within all of us. So,
of course. Thank you for that, Prof. We're going to go for a short break. We've got learners as our live studio audience here from the 14 high schools in the northern areas, and ek hoop nou nie, hulle is nou so static, ek weet nou nie. Is die prof nou intimidating of wat gaan aan nie. Maar ek hoop as ons terugkom, gaan hulle die burning questions kan vra wat hulle daarmee sit en nie intimidated voel nie, né? Ons is terug na die. Going North, the show that celebrates our very own community champions from the northern areas in PE. Today we're talking to Prof. Veonna Goliath from the Nelson Mandela University Social Service Professions Department. And before break, we spoke about a lot of things, Prof, but I want to give an opportunity. There are some learners, like I said before we went to break, from the various high schools in the northern areas. They would love to ask you certain things, maybe ask for some pointers how they can also achieve what you have achieved in your life and how to overcome challenges. So guys, the floor is julle sinne.
Good day, Ms. Veonna Goliath. I'm Sasha Lee from Patterson High School. My question to you is, I would also like to actually become a psychologist, and I spoke to my family about it. But my older aunties, like they are nurses and stuff, so I asked them for advice on that. And then my one auntie told me, don't do it. Jy gaan met ander mense se probleme opgeskeep sit en jy gaan mal raak van die probleme and stuff. So I just want to know, like, is it actually true what they're saying, or how do you actually deal with it if it's like that, since you're dealing with other people's situations and problems? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sasha, for that question. I think it's wonderful to hear that the aunties are giving career advice, because it means that they really care for your well-being and your sanity. like I said to Desira earlier, if I didn't go to therapy myself, then I would not be of such sound mind, I think. And the training is so important. So whilst you train as a psychologist, you will work with lecturers that will teach you how to contain people's feelings, that their feelings don't become your feelings. And you learn the difference between sympathy and empathy. You know, that you don't take people's problems home, that you're able to bracket it and leave it where it's supposed to be. Because if you get so affected by every person and what they go through, then you're not able to be of best service to everyone. So the training definitely will equip you. Okay. And then if you have the passion to want to do it and you go for the right training, and then what we do, both in social work and psychology, is that even whilst you are qualified, when you're qualified, you have a supervisor. So for every difficulty or every case that you work with that you feel is too heavy, or maybe this is very similar to what you've gone through in your own life, in supervision you talk through those things. You know, that you unclutter your mind and you learn to separate. Yeah.
Many worry, there's no danger that you'll end up in the Duncan somewhere. Yeah.
Good day, Ms. Veonna. My name is Dean Alexander and I'm a grade 11 learner from David Livingston High. I would just like to know, did it ever occur to you to start foundations in every Northern area community? Because we, as youngsters, experience alcohol abuse ourselves and from our parents. So how can we as the youth contribute to this?
Sure. Dylan, I think for myself, I really believe in giving back to the community, but mostly also in ensuring that people are mentally in a different place. It was Steve Biko that said that the greatest power of the oppressor is to oppress your mind. And so if you don't liberate... If you don't liberate your mind, then you're going to continue to stay in poverty. So you can stay in poverty, but you don't have to be poor in your thinking and in your heart. So 8 years ago, we started a project in Bloemendal. It's called the School at Home Project, and I see some of the learners here that have been attending for a number of years. So it's not an established foundation, but 8 years later, this project is still going strong. And there are youth, all of the facilitators in the program at this point in time have been learners in that program. So it's a project for grade 10 and 11s, and some of the audience members have already been to Germany on an exchange program because of the School at Home project and our very close collaboration with NGOs. So I serve on the board of directors of a non-profit organization called SADRAT, and we do a lot of development work. So, and that's not part of my work at the university. That's my free time and my volunteer time that I invest in those projects, because this is how you continue to grow community leaders. Yeah, so that's the investment.
Lucia Weideman from St. James. Professor Goliath, you mentioned that your mother died while you were busy studying. I want to know how it affected your life as a student and how you managed to overcome it.
Yeah. Lucia, my mom died very suddenly. So I was actually coming back from practicals. I was doing practicals as a second year student and arrived home and found her on the floor. So she had a stroke. So it was a very sudden death. And it was 2 weeks before our exam started, the mid-year exam started, and also 2 weeks before Mother's Day. Sure. So it was an incredibly difficult time. And in fact, on that morning, my sister and I had gotten to get a Mother's Day gift for my mum. So it was also, it affected me greatly. And one of the big regrets I have about how I dealt with it at the time was that I literally dug my head in the sand and just pretended that this was happening to someone else. I got onto my horse and I started taking care of my brother and of everybody else except myself. And so several years later, now if I went to a funeral, even if I didn't know this person very well, I would cry as if this was my family member or someone I was married to. So that was really how I carried that effect for a long time, that I was mourning and grieving for people that I didn't know that well, because I didn't take the time to mourn and grieve for my mum. And I literally, like I said, I carried on, because then I had to achieve against all odds. And my mum, I was studying with a bursary. All of my studies I've done with a bursary because there was no money. I told you my parents weren't working. And so I had to get these marks in order to keep the bursary. And I couldn't allow my mother's passing now to deprive me of a bursary. And my mum would always say, and I'm going to say it exactly like she says it, as jy nou eendag geleerd is, dan gaan ons sky, ek en jy. Because she had these dreams that I would get a car, and then we would have a family car, and I would drive it to places and go places, you know, so those were her wishes. So I think that it's those sort of things, you know, so when I started working, one of the first things I did was now to build a bathroom, because all these years moes ons hoeveel meter loop toilet toe. So to now get a bathroom in the house, to get an extra room in the house, so it later became in memory of my mum. Like a death became this motivation for me to complete the qualification and to study. But like I said, I would not do what I've done, which is just to block off my emotions had I known better.
Good day everyone, I am Terry Ann Daniels van Bertram Secondary School, a grade 11 learner. Auntie Veonna, ek het net 'n bietjie vorige keer met die Germany story. Maar even if jy baie dankie sê vir die geleentheid wat jy vir my gegee het. Ek is baie bevoorreg. Dit is hier reg, maar is 'n voorreg om oor see te gaan op so jong ouderdom. Ek sal vir die res van my lewe dankbaar wees vir die geleentheid. Baie dankie. My vraag aan u is, hoe bly jy gemotiveerd om 'n doktersgraad te kry? So baie hoopend. Hoe het jy dit reg gekry?
Terry, I think once you start driving, you have to continue, isn't it? Otherwise, if you don't continue to grow, then you're dying. That's the point for me, and I'm just very curious. I want to know how the world works, and I want to know why things are the way they are. I wanted to know why is it that some children growing up in the same home, raised by the same parents, that one would take to a life of addictions and another one wouldn't even look twice in that direction. So it's this intense curiosity to try and make sense of things and to realize that no two people are the same and that you could never know enough. And so for me, the better equipped I am, the better I am able to do my job. Dis soos nou 'n loodgieter wat nou nie seker maak hy service sy tools dat hy die pype goed genoeg kan skoonmaak nie. So I need to sharpen my tools so that I can, do my trade well. And that's the curiosity, and it's really, I'm intrigued by human nature. I'm intrigued by human beings and why they do what they do. And my continued motivation is, my family. I'm very strongly invested in my family. This brother I spoke about earlier, that 9-year-old at the time, is now a grown man with an MBA degree, with how many qualifications, and he's heading off to China to go and take up a job there. So it's, it's seeing people excel against all odds. And my own children and my husband and my community that make me want to constantly better myself.
Nou ongelukkig, ek weet julle luister nou baie lekker, maar ons moet nou weer breek. Ons kom terug en dan hoor ons nog veel verder van professor Goliath. Ons is nou weer terug.
My name is Willie G and Helenvale TV rocks.
Ons is terug met Going North, die show wat ons eie community champions celebrate in die noordelike areas van Port Elizabeth. En ons het nog tyd vir so 2 vragies van die leerders af hierso wat kom van die verskillende hoërskole in die noordelike areas, guys.
Goeiedag mevrouw Goliath, ik is Courtney Kutsie van Badrum Secundaire School. Mijn vraag aan u is vandaag, wat raad het u voor ons jong mensen wat in uw omstandighede opgroeien met ouders wat alcohol misbruik en ons wat onze ouders op een jong ouderdom verloor?
Corley, ek dink in die eerste plek is om te onthou dat jou ouer net 'n mens is met baie gebreke en dat niemand vir hulle geleer het om ouers te wees nie. En dat daar baie mense is wat alkohol en dwelms raak 'n coping mechanism, nee, vir baie mense, veral vir volwassenes. En so ek sê nie jy moet nou jou ma of jou pa se terapeut raak nie. Maar wat ek sê is onthou die goeie en volg die goeie voorbeelde na. En dan kyk rond in die kerk en in die gemeenskap en in jou familie, want ek is seker daar is nie almal wat alkohol gebruik en nie almal die community parents, jy weet wat die tipe van goed doen, wat miskien van die ouers doen nie. So find yourself a community parent. As hulle nou nie na jou te wil kom nie, dan reik jy uit en sê, ek hou vir jou van 'n afstand dop, en ek sien hoe nurturing en caring en wat ook al jy is, moenie in 'n hoekie sit en wag vir mense om vir jou uit te reik nie. Ons moet nou maar die forwardness wat ons het, moet ons gebruik vir die regte redes, né? En gaan sê vir hulle, jy weet, ek het nie miskien 'n rolmodel of ek het nie 'n ouer wat so available is of daar kan wees of wat ook al nie. En fokus op dit wat jy sien, wat die positiewe is wat hulle kan doen. Want as jy constantly distract, kan ek gou in Engels oor sê, if you're constantly looking at the things that's not happening the way they are supposed to be happening, and you're looking for that hero in your parent or the hero in somebody that you look up to or that should be there for you, you're going to get lost. And then for children that lose parents at a young age, like I said earlier, don't deny your own feelings, because it's when we try to deny the hurt and the pain that we sort of like grab those other things that help. I grabbed work and studies. Other people grab other things like okka pipes and things, stronger things. So find things to replace that with. And in our community, mense daar is baie geleenthede in ons gemeenskap. Ons praat aan mekaar van goede wat nie daar is nie, maar daar is baie opportunities vir ons jong mense. So keep your eyes and your ears open. Form friendships, form positive partnerships with your peers, because you would be surprised as to the many struggles that your peers are going through. But in sharing with one another, nie oppervlakkig nie, like really finding someone that become a trusted friend, a confidant. En wees nie skierig, gaan vra uit oor hulpbronne. You know, make a nuisance of yourself for the right reason. So you use Google for the right reason. We've got NAPD, the organization in Galvindale. They started a site, Napedia, that you can go and see what are the projects that's in the northern areas. So there's a live online forum platform for you. Make sure that you ask questions and that you find opportunities, because there are plenty. And so put yourself out there. Moenie in 'n hoekie sit en krepeer en dink almal is teen my en die lewe is so unfair nie, because then life will be unfair. So rid yourself of victim mentality. Ons is nie victims nie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Ek het net een vraagie voordat ons weer gaan vir 'n break.
Morning, Ms. Goliath. I am Tanisha Fasahi from Wiswell. I just want to ask you, taking you back to you saying that you were instant mom, how do you think that this changed you as a person, and how it changed your mentality to raising a 9-year-old boy at the age of 19 years old?
Yeah. Tanisha, my brother constantly tell my daughters I've got a I must think how old I've got a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. So he constantly tell them to thank him for having that they have a good mom. Because hy sê altyd al die pak slaas het hy klaar gekry, so they don't get any of that. But I think for me, it really alerted me to the needs of children. You know, I was very mindful of children's needs, but also to the way in which their minds work, because I watched my brother, observed him closely. I made an effort. It's because of that that I learned about soccer. You can ask me any rule in soccer. You know, so those are ways in which it sort of like expanded my mind. The other things is also then going to the soccer, I started meeting people that are in the soccer networks. So when we had the 2010 World Cup and the social workers did programs in Galvindale, that was part of the things that I did. So learning life skills through using soccer. So these are small ways in which it, you know, has shaped me. But I think most importantly, it's learning that nurturance and caring that children really need. And I think also learning how children communicate their needs in different ways. You know, that because he would often say to me, "You see my money." And then if I got upset and say, "But I have to be your mother now," instead of hearing that he's actually missing his mum. You know, that he's actually trying to say, "I don't need your scolding now, I actually need you to take care of me." If I didn't hear those things, I believe I wouldn't be the type of person that I am. Okay.
Ja, die geselskap raak nou baie interessant, maar ons moet ongelukkig nou weer breek, so ons is terug na die. Welcome back to Going North, the show where we celebrate our very own community heroes and champions from the northern areas in Port Elizabeth. Today we spoke to Professor Veonna Goliath from the Social Work Service Professions from the University, Nelson Mandela University, die ou UPE, die ou mense sal weet. So, ons het 'n bietjie gepraat oor baie dinge en ons was baie streng professioneel geweest. Professor Goliath het haar lewensstorie met ons gedeel, waar sy vanaand afkom en hoe sy geachieve het, dit wat sy geachieve het vandag. En I for one am very inspired and I'm really encouraged, you know, on a life story and how she achieved against all odds. Nooit geweet nie. Maar in elk geval. Prof, dit was vir ons 'n voorreg om u te hê. Dit was vir ons 'n voorreg om saam met u bietjie die ander kant van Veonna Goliath te sien. En nou sien ek mos nou maar vir myself ook waar daai compassion vanaand afkom om terug te ploeg in die gemeenskap. Ek meen as iemand na u kyk, dan sal hy nooit dink jy het in soortgelyk groot geraak nie. Die tipe omstandighede waar jy nie groot raak, dit is vir my 100% 'n success story. En ek dink dit is die tipe van stories wat ons hier op Going North wil vertel. So namens Going North het ons net so 'n klein token of appreciation vir u tyd. Ek weet dit is crunch time, is amper recess. So ons wil net vir u sê baie dankie. En ons is honored om u as een van onze community champions te honor op die show. En vir u te sê baie dankie wat u doen in die gemeenskap. Wat u terugproeg in die noordelike area spesifiek, because dis baie weinig van ons wat terugkom, van ons vanaand afkom. En ons wil vir u very al die sukses vir u future endeavors toewens. En vir diegene wat daar by die huis is, né? For more interesting people, né? Tune in and Going North. Ons sien vir julle.
Clap your hands and shake your hips. Shake your hand and stamp your feet. Be afraid, yeah, very afraid. Making room for the champions. We don't take second best. Brush adversaries to the ground. You better make room for the champions. Clap your hands and shake your hips. Shake your hand and stamp your feet. Be afraid, yeah, very afraid.